They were famous in the 70s. This is them now. If you were already watching movies and television programs in the 1970s, it's safe to say that you're no longer a kid. The old days had many stars, and some of them have continued to act and play vital roles in the movie industry. However, some of them have long left the scene and have gone to the great beyond. Here are selected actors from the 70s and 80s and their current situation these days. Mindy Cohn. With her unmistakable face and acting ability, Mindy Cohn was very popular in the 1970s. She acted in Different Strokes, The Facts of Life, and The Boy Who Could Fly. These days, she's much older and she lives in Beverly Hills. She still manages to remain relevant in the movie industry. One of her relatively recent projects is The Secret Life of the American Teenager. David Cassidy. If you were watching TV back in the 70s, you'll definitely remember David Cassidy. He played the role of Keith Partridge in the musical sitcom The Partridge Family back in the 70s. He was a teen icon back then, and he looked great at the time. Unfortunately, life dealt him a bad few cards in his older years. He battled with liver disease for many years and finally passed in 2017 at the age of 67. He still looked good in his later years, but alcohol had taken a toll on his looks. Johnny Whitaker. Johnny Whitaker made waves as the red-headed Jody Davis on Family Affair. He also played the role of Scotty Baldwin on General Hospital and the lead character in the musical adaptation of Tom Sawyer. In those days, his red hair gave him a shockingly distinguished appearance. These days, it's safe to state that this once handsome actor is living on past glories. He's only acted in a few cameo appearances, and his health is not as good as it should be. This is probably due to years of substance abuse. Now he's overweight, has gray hair, and doesn't look great. However, his blue eyes are still as blue as they were many years ago. Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt was a ravishing beauty back in the 70s and a great actress to boot. She had great roles on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, as well as the Swiss Family Robinson and many more. Hunt was a force to reckon with in that era, but these days, things are slightly different for the once famous actress. She's still a beautiful woman, but she can no longer be considered a ravishing beauty. However, she is still active in the movie and television worlds and has appeared in a number of recent productions. Diane Lane. This beautiful actress made her mark early in life when she acted in the 1979 film A Little Romance. At that time, she was young, beautiful, and talented. Many people saw her as a star with huge potentials, and they weren't wrong. She's since moved on to play adult roles, but she's still a beautiful woman. One of her most recent projects is the 2020 film Let Him Go. Mike Lookinland. This guy was one of the most recognizable faces in the 1970s. He played a lead role in the 1970 sitcom The Brady Bunch. Unfortunately, this was his only connection to the movie and TV world. Mike Lookinland left the movie industry and now makes decorative concrete. His good looks have faded with time, but the gap-toothed smile remains intact. The Jackson 5. This iconic family group was red hot back in the 70s. They delivered hit after hit back then, but later some of them left the group to pursue solo careers. After the death of Michael Jackson, the group came together to honor their brother. Decked out in suits and sporting low-cut hair, these guys looked quite different from the young and fresh-faced kids of the 1970s. Robbie Wrist. Robbie Wrist was a huge star back in the 70s. His good-looking face was a near-permanent fixture in movies and TV shows back then. He appeared on The Brady Bunch, Grady, and the film Revenge of the Nerds. These days, he's no longer active in TV, but he still works behind the scenes. He's involved in voiceover for both music and TV, and has received credit for his work in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as Sharknado. He looks different these days, but he's still a star with his trademark glasses and distinctive beard. Janet Jackson. If you think Janet Jackson's only claim to fame is her family name, you are mistaken. She's a star in her own right and has appeared in Fame, Different Strokes, and Good Times. She's also achieved success as a recording artist. Her most recent album, Unbreakable, hit the airwaves in 2016. Janet Jackson always looked great, and she's still a very beautiful woman, even though she's no longer as young as she used to be. Robbie Benson. This popular star has appeared in many TV shows, including Ode to Billy Joe and Happy Days. He was a very good-looking dude in his much younger days. Unfortunately, his lifelong battle with heart disease has left a mark on his looks. Benson had 4 open-heart surgeries, but he's refused to let this weigh him down. He wrote a play called Open Heart, and this play was inspired by his heart-related issues. Kim Richards. Kim Richards was a bomb in her much younger days. She was pretty, talented, and popular. She starred in Escape to Witch Mountain, Nanny and the Professor, and many other films. These days, she's older, less pretty, and probably has problems we don't even know about. She was arrested for shoplifting a while back and released on bail. For all that, she's still a TV personality and recently appeared on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Scott Baio. This man's always been an interesting character and has continued on this track even as he gets older and presumably wiser. He appeared in Happy Days and The Bugsy Machine way back in his youth. These days, the iconic actor makes his money from Nickelodeon ventures. There are allegations of assault and sexual misconduct against him, but these things have not cramped his style. He's definitely older now, but he's still good-looking in a Latino way. Ron Palillo. This character's always had a lovable personality. He acted in Welcome Back, Kotter back in the 70s and later became a director. He also wrote children's books, and this kept him quite busy. In his later years, he looked quite different, but he still had the bright eyes and the prominent nose. Unfortunately, he passed away at age 63 after a heart attack. His partner of 41 years, Joseph Graham, was devastated by the death of Ron. Baio Williams. Baio Williams acted the role of Greg Brady in The Brady Bunch and was a popular actor in the 70s and 80s. Apart from being an actor, he was also a musician and recorded 4 albums. These days, he's still active in theater productions, and he's acted in West Side Story, The Sound of Music, and a few other productions. He's much older now, has white hair, but he's still a star for all that. Susan Dey. This actress played the role of Laurie Partridge on The Partridge Family in the 70s. Other popular actors on the set with her were David Cassidy and Shirley Jones. Susan Dey was also a model and combined her acting duties with her modeling career. She still acts in small roles these days, but she's no longer as active as she was in her younger days. Karen Carpenter. Karen Carpenter was a fighter, and she practically died in her boots. Her brother was the famous Richard Carpenter, and together they made music, made money, and achieved global recognition at a relatively young age. They were famous for their chart-topping albums in the 70s. Unfortunately, Karen passed away in 1983 at just 32 years of age. She'd battled with anorexia for years and finally succumbed to cardiac arrest. Erin Murphy. Erin Murphy's been in showbiz for a very long time. She made her name in Bewitched, where she acted for a while alongside her twin sister. Eventually, her sister left the show, but Erin continued to act on the show. After making her name as a child actor, Erin took some time off acting and became a normal kid. She eventually got married, had children, and even spent some time teaching. These days, Erin still finds time to act in reality shows, and this keeps her active and relevant in the industry. Tatum ONeill. Tatum ONeill was just 10 years old when she starred in Paper Moon. This performance won her an Academy Award. ONeill also starred in The Bad News Bears and Nickelodeon. Since those early days, it appears she's lost a bit of momentum. She's only made an appearance in just 5 films since then. She was married to the great tennis player John McEnroe, but the couple got divorced after a while. Clearly, Tatum ONeill is not as active as she should be in the movie world. However, she did appear in Rescue Me in 2005. Danny Bonaducci. Back in the day, Danny Bonaducci played Danny on The Partridge Family. The family had a fake family band, and he played bass on this band. He was a comical kid in his much younger days, but he grew up to become a relatively serious-minded dude. These days, Bonaducci is much older and looks like a grandfather. He's worked as a radio show host and had his own reality show for a while. Linda Blair. This smart woman made her name as an actress with her impressive work in The Exorcist and The Exorcist 2. Back then, she got a Golden Globe for her efforts. These days, she's still active in the movie and TV industry. She served as the host of The Scariest Places on Earth and co-starred on the show Supernatural. Linda Blair is vegan, and she's very active as an animal rights activist. She looks older these days, but she's still a very busy lady for all that. Jodie Foster. Back in the 70s and 80s, Jodie Foster was one of the most successful child stars in the industry. She played vital roles in Bugsy Malone, Taxi Driver, Freaky Friday, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, and many other productions. She's still very active in Hollywood today and had an iconic role in Silence of the Lambs. She's also an active director with productions like Black Mirror, House of Cards, and Orange is the New Black to attest to her ability as a director. Mackenzie Phillips. She was only 12 years old when she appeared on American Graffiti. She also starred in One Day at a Time in her teenage years. Mackenzie battled cocaine addiction for years and eventually kicked the habit. She's been married 3 times, has a son, and admitted she dated both men and women. These days, the actress is above 60 years of age and has presumably cut out some of the more outrageous aspects of her personal life. Melissa Gilbert. Melissa Gilbert starred as Laura Ingalls Wilder in Little House on the Prairie and acted the lead role in The Diary of Anne Frank. Today she's a politician, and she ran for the district congressional elections for Michigan's 8th district in the 2016 election.